part two, then, the only obvious place to go to is Milan, right? Because it was probably the second biggest game of the weekend, and any other weekend it would have been the biggest. Milan, of course, beat Lazio 2-0, and Vito, this is a sign of the Rossoneri sending a real message. We had praised Lazio time and again already this term, but Milan, I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, but they made light work of them.
It was important for Lazio to have a test and get it early. They've had that, and they did not succeed. What Milan showed is that they're a stronger team than probably what most people are giving them credit for. Perhaps maybe we haven't given them enough credit, but so far they're maintaining that good run they've had since Pioli's been the coach, and also with the options that are available to them, they're still able to produce results, and they're looking like a really good side at the moment, the Rossoneri.
Well, Kessie's back, right? But they did also start with Rebic, Romagnoli, and Florenzi in the starting 11. That is just a reflection of the depth they have there now, right? That they could play those players in this game and still win comfortably.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Vito, go.
If they if they if they can rotate their squad and those players can step right in, I think that's a very positive sign. I mean, you look at Rebic; he usually plays in the same position as Leao on the left wing, but they can play as the lone striker. Then Romagnoli, let's be honest, I think last season he was showing that he had a bit of form issues, especially with injury and all that. And Tomori stepped in was fantastic. So if he can step in here and there, he can still perform a role in the team and be a solid performer. And Florenzi, yeah, I think he's had a bit of stick in the last few years, but I reckon in this team, regardless if he plays right back or right wing, he might be able to put in a good, solid performance and just put in a hard-working shift.
Do you know what? I feel really bad for Florenzi because when he was at Roma, he got lumped back to right back despite not being a right back. And then for some reason, it just stuck. And he has become a right back despite never having been an actual right back. And now he's getting the opportunity to play a right wing with years of practice doing the job that he was made to do, probably against his will, but he's too nice to say otherwise. So, yeah, I feel bad for him. But I'm sure he doesn't really care that much, to be honest. Kev, Zlatan is back, came back off the bench to score, and didn't take him too long, but it was always going to go this way, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those sort of kind of easy narratives. I think if you're sort of sitting there and you know a player like them is coming back into the fold, and it is slightly easier with strikers, particularly let's say where Zlatan's playing on the last shoulder or just making sure he's in the box to sort of pick stuff up. A little bit more difficult if you're maybe an aging sort of centre half who comes back and you want him to sort of have a clean sheet, and they're kind of dependent on the other defenders around them or goalkeepers not sort of making a mistake. Um, so yeah, just that said, it wasn't as if they were playing Salernitana or a bottom half of the table side, and you can kind of throw them on to almost get that goal as would be expected on someone's return. But it was kind of laid on a plate for him by Rebic.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he couldn't have missed it, but I'm not sure if another player would have moved as well as him to make that pass. I don't know. Is there a word? Like, Rebic could not decide to not play that pass because of Ibra's movement. Once he went there, he had to put that through, and it was excellent. Really good experience play from the big man, which we've come to expect over the years, despite how insufferable he can sometimes be. Kev, you tweeted about a bit of an incident after this game, and I can't work it out, to be honest with you, because there was a bit of a coming together. I don't know if we can even call it that because it never really escalated to be as much. But when the full-time whistle went, Ibrahimovic just kind of grabbed Lucas by the back of his neck. And I'm assuming he squeezed or something because Lucas wasn't happy about it. And then it all just kicked off, didn't it?
Yeah, somebody said that it was kind of kicking off for other things that had gone on. I saw the footage, and then it was one of those. He's clearly Lucas has gone in for the challenge. I think he's probably made the challenge. Ball's gone out of play. Ibrahimovic has sort of grabbed him behind it. He's clearly squeezed him or done something to then antagonise Lucas. But I think what annoyed me most on social media is it's the whole kind of Zlatan Ibrahimovic fan club. It's like, oh, he's showing him who's boss and all this. It's like, but it's very much that playground kind of bully mentality that, oh, look at me, I'm bigger than you, I can sort
Mm.
of shake your hand and squeeze it or just hold you. And I just thought, I commented as much as you shouldn't do this at home, children. That Lucas should have just stuck one on him, because those sorts of people that have kind of just got this overwhelming sort of bully boy tactic and kind of built up this persona of not, everybody else kind of goes with them because they don't want to sort
Mm.
of stand up and go, look, just stop being a knob, will you? It's just like, just leave it. There's no even need to grab him. And it's sometimes the only thing they ever respond to rather than resort to.
Isn't
Um,
that just what Zlatan Ibrahimovic has become?
oh, it is, yeah, and yeah, that's one of the few things, if you like, that makes people maybe dislike him. But yeah, I've got allegiances for my little friend Lucas
You do. Well,
lately.
you love
So
Lucas, don't you? So were you happy
I
when you
do.
saw little Pedro pop up and diffuse the situation? I thought Pedro did excellently there because he was quite clearly behind Zlatan, so you couldn't see him. But then he just comes into shot over or to the right of his shoulder, and you can see him shouting his name. And Zlatan's probably at the point of his career now where at the end of every game everyone's shouting his name, so he doesn't hear it too much. But then Pedro just grabs him and is just giving him a big old smile, and then Zlatan just starts smiling and they have a little hug. And I thought fair play to Pedro there.
Pedro must have had something on him from that sort of brief 12-month stint at Barcelona together, maybe.
Quite
When,
possibly.
don't start, Zlatan, or I'll tell him about that time in the locker room.
Yeah, well, there are pretty unfounded, but there are some whispers about Zlatan Ibrahimovic's time at Barcelona. But I do think most of it is just an attempt to get under his skin, which it probably would if he ever saw it. But I'm sure he's seen it by now. It's pretty impossible for him to have missed out on that one. But good win for Milan. They've got a 100% record. Vito. It's just them and Napoli now who still have that 100% record 3 games in. And yeah, like you kind of said earlier, they're just still marching on under Pioli, really.
It's pardon me. It's been a very good run for them, and they're not scraping through games. Maybe against Sump it was a bit of a struggle, but against Coyote they were just completely dominant, and I think they were being a bit generous on Coyote to stop at 4 goals. They probably could have scored more if they tried in the second half, but that first half they were just absolutely superb. And even in this game against Lazio, they probably should have scored more than 2 goals. And it didn't look like Lazio offered much of a threat, which is probably a bit of a shame considering the great start they had. But uh, these early tests, like I said earlier, that's what Sarri and his boys really need. And hopefully for their sake, they learn from it. Whereas with Pioli and his group, yeah, it's about continuity, and if they maintain this, especially in the second half of the season, because that's probably one thing they failed to do last season. If if they can continue the good form after the Christmas break, then it might set them up nicely for another Champions League spot or even another title.
Yeah, absolutely. Who knows? Well, that'll do for part 2.